Hello and welcome to you all for another edition of Startups Ask. In this half an hour show every Tuesday, 12 noon UK time, we discuss about briefly the happenings in the startup and the funding ecosystem in the last 1 week. And then we bring some special guests from a wonderful startup to you so that you can get to know how they think about the market, about the sector, about how they operate, and you can get an understanding about the inner workings of these startups. So, as always, I have two very special guests today. But before that, let me take you a bit about the happenings this week. The If you remember, the last time we had discussed about the crackdown of the Chinese government on the Chinese tech companies, and the news update on that front is that the crackdown has intensified a bit. So apart from the companies like Didi Chuxing and Baidu and Meituan uh, and Alibaba, we have now education technology companies which are being targeted, and they are being told to reduce their prices. In fact, one of the laws which have been created in the Chinese by the Chinese government, it says that post school tuitions should be free of cost from the government, and post school tuitions can only be run by not for profit institutions. This is a big blow for $100 billion education technology sector in China. A lot of the companies there, the leaders in the space had emerged, and now they are facing a rout in the stock market. And also, the second aspect to the Chinese crackdown had been the listing of Chinese tech companies onto the US bourses. And the Chinese government is very aware of the fact that the huge amount of data on Chinese citizens, which these tech companies have, it should not fall in the hands of non-Chinese governments. One of the rules brought out by the US government was that any Chinese company listing on the US stock exchange should give its data to the auditors. So the Chinese action seems to be a reaction to that particular law. Now, coming to a very interesting sector, which is the SaaS sector, software as a service. This sector has been booming since now almost 10 years. It represents the creation of software which would provide great benefits in terms of flexible payments, scalable usage. It provides automatic updates. It is very accessible and persistent, and it also affords a huge amount of customization. The key characteristics of SaaS model is that it can work uh, as a CRM. It can work as a huge number of. It can solve a huge number of other problems for a company. Now, the market size, it's $104.7 billion in 2020, as per Gartner. And businesses have been spending 50% more on cloud technologies than they did ever in the past. And this augurs very well for SaaS companies. One of the big examples of success of SaaS has been Slack, which became a multi-billion-dollar company in no time. And the other SaaS companies which have grown big is SurveyMonkey, HubSpot. We have Mailchimp, Canva. Canva became a $7 billion company, and so on and so forth. Now, welcoming the two guests here, very special guests, Mr. Tushar Trivedi and Mr. Wasim Kabir. Mr. Tushar Trivedi has 32 years of experience in the field of digital banking, helping in growth strategy at Kotak Mahindra Bank, one of the most sought after private banks in the Indian market, and also at Citibank, the US behemoth. and he's serving on the boards of listed companies. He's an investor and a mentor at Back2Stores, which is the company we are featuring today. It's a SaaS company, and let me welcome the founder, Mr. Wasim Kabir. He's a BE and PGDBM with 13 years of experience in product, strategy, sales, and marketing. He has worked for companies like Hewlett Packard, Tata Consultancy Services, and HT Digital. So, welcome both of you, Mr. Tushar Trivedi and Mr. Wasim Kabir,
Thank you.
to this
Thank you very
edition
much.
of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be talking to you today and giving a chance to our viewers to understand SaaS sector a bit more, and also to understand what does your company specifically offer to the clients. So, as per my understanding, this your product, which is a SaaS product, it digitizes entire value chains. It digitizes warehousing, it digitizes distribution, and it is very much in vogue, very much in demand with the small and medium enterprises, SMEs. So,
Right.
could you? I was reading about the SaaS sector in India. Some of the statistics which I saw were really amazing. There are 1,000 SaaS companies based out of India. There are 10 Indian SaaS unicorns. 10 unicorns out of 35, or sorry, out of 50. And there are more than 150 Indian SaaS companies having more than $1 million in ARR, and the combined revenue of pure play SaaS companies in India is $2.6 billion, and 30% revenue growth rate over the last 2 years. And the total VC investments in Indian SaaS companies in the last 5 years has been $4 billion. 40,000 people are employed by Indian pure play SaaS companies. And outside North America, 60% is the market opportunity. So it's a truly global industry. And any market leader has a market share of less than 20%. So it is not a winner takes it all market. The Indian SaaS unicorns are Zoho, Freshworks, Dhruva, Zenoti, Postman, HighRadius, ChargeBee, and BrowserStack. So, starting with Mr. Tushar Trivedi, sir, please tell a bit about your journey and how you became an investor, a mentor, having served in such prominent positions in such marquee companies.
A pleasure is mine, Tushar. Thank you very much for connecting us on this lovely program. Quickly, I guess there was always an entrepreneur bug in me, but somehow could not ever thought of taking a risk for probably 30, 32 years. Always worked with large institutions and felt that that was the arena that I belonged to. But fine, one day probably thought of leveraging my experience, whatever little kitty that I had accumulated by then, and felt that it's time to look at doing something on your own as an entrepreneur. It was a 360-degree difference between the job and the being an entrepreneur, I guess. Everyone who's an entrepreneur on this call would probably understand and appreciate that. But I think it's a welcome change. You remain grounded, you remain very close to the, whatever right side of the Mother Earth in terms of understanding the real pain of life, and probably always wanted to do something different in spite of doing too many things in various initiatives in those 32 years. That hunger in me never stopped. And one of the reasons was probably, as I said, as well. The other side of me was to be an entrepreneur, and I was looking for the right opportunity. So while mentoring few startups, I ended up connecting with Wasim Kabir as one of the co-founder and their startup as Back2Store. And I felt that there was a genuine need of creating some kind of a SaaS platform for backends, because most of the time you see people creating backend, created SaaS platform which are more product centric but are for front ends. And I felt I think we could probably address challenges of being the production processes to quality controls to warehousing, storages, supply chain, and digitizing all of that. And in the last couple of years was the focus area for us, and we believe we are going leaps and bounces. We are seeing some phenomenal result right now. We have started focusing with niche one industry, which is leather and shoe manufacturing. We have started diversifying into textile, and we are soon looking at doing some major breakthroughs in pharmaceuticals and structured processes. So with that, I'll ask Wasim to probably talk a bit more about our focus on Inventify as a product. How are we addressing the industrial challenges? And then we are more than happy to take questions if there are any. Thanks,
Sure.
Tushar, once again for the lovely opportunity.
Thank you, Tusharji. Thank you so much. Wasim bhai, could you start by telling a bit about your background, how you did work in such marquee companies and then came to develop this wonderful product?
Right, and thank you, Mr. Tushar, and thank you for having us in such a lovely platform. So, hey guys, this is Wasim. So, entrepreneurship bug didn't strike me initially in my career, actually. So, being in a corporate life, good salaries on time, remarkable profiles, you really don't want to quit and get into a system where there's risk in each and every step. But if you think if you can solve a problem, so entrepreneurship, why not? So would like to give a brief description about why we ended up in getting in this business and what is still driving us and enabling us to go each and every day and solve a problem for our customers. So to introduce a company, so we are Back2Store Technologies. So we are an enterprise SaaS company providing productivity, efficiency, and profitability tool for small and medium manufacturers and their value chain. So currently, as Mr. Tushar said, we are right now sitting in a niche of a footwear manufacturer and helping them reduce their per manufacturing cost, and that's what our pitch to our customers. We help them streamline the processes so that they are enabled themselves to actually know what is the decision they need to take, and which practically helps them reduce their manufacturing cost. And we have seen that we all are aware there are remarkable startups in this SME ecosystem, right from guys like Khata Book, Paybook at the top of the value chain, helping the retail segment. And there are guys like unicorns like Uran, and there's another wannabe unicorn, the Shoe Connect. These guys are doing terrific in the supply chain, creating a marketplace, helping the manufacturers connect to the distributors and retailers. And there is a huge gap right at the bottom of the value chain, which is manufacturing. This is where we are. We really help our customers who are manufacturers and help them in creating perfect plans for production, helping the warehousing issues, helping the inventory management process, and day-to-day activities and decision making. So that's where we started. And to talk about why the SME and why this segment is huge. So if we see, so I have worked with global giants like the Hewlett Packards and Tata Consultancy Services in the world. So to be true, majority of these tech companies and IT services company are focused for global customers and global accounts. And there is not much of an activity in Indian markets. So there's a void always there, and it will be there. And companies like us, companies like Back2Stores, are actually helping to bridge those gaps. So as Mr. Kansal just discussed, the SME SaaS market in India is $104 billion, right? And it's what you say, it's a huge opportunity. And what we believe, serve India first, India plus global. And if you see a product like what we say, there are bigger products in this segment. Like somebody can compare us with an SAP, an Oracle, or Microsoft Dynamics. So these are products, really good products, but sometimes doesn't suit the SMEs because it needs a lot of customization, a lot of handholding. So we build a product. It is actually a deep tech product, a deep tech understanding of the product that we had, and build a product from bottom to up, understanding each and every need of a manufacturer and its ecosystem. So that's why we are actually doing pretty well. And what we proudly say that we are a customer centric company, and majority of the product build and the product pipeline is based on a solid consumer insight.
Great. That is simply awesome. Thank you so much for giving insights on the product and also explaining it in such simple terms. Uh, so, Tushar sir, how are we enabling digitization of factory operations? I mean, what is the core we are addressing? Rather, if I ask this to Wasim first and then coming to Tushar sir. Wasim, how does the digitization happen?
Right, see, so to understand what digitization is in a factory ecosystem, we need to really take a step back and understand what is happening right now in a factory. And majority of the SMEs are right now the third generation SMEs, and majority of the practices are right now happening through word of mouth, pen and paper, and Excel. And just because of manual operations, people lose a lot of time and a lot of data. In transition of data, you lose a lot of information, and because of that you end up in losses. And now if we are able to digitize the same data in form of a system, you will be able to make a lot of decisions much quicker. In case, just giving an example, a very small example, suppose I am a manufacturer and I have an order from my one of my distributors, and if I don't have that data in front of me, what has been the performance of the distributor? Is he lagging in payments? Is any pending payments for me? If I don't have that decision right in front of me, I cannot take a quick call. In this case, what happens, the manufacturer ended up taking an order which is actually loss making. So what we do as a part of a digitization, a very simple example of digitization, what we do, we have digitized the entire order management flow from the distribution systems. Plus, we give them a platform where they can plan their orders and plan their manufacturing. A few clicks will tell you which are the raw materials you need to purchase and who are your suppliers and who are giving you these rates. So as a manufacturer, I'll just putting in my orders, and within a few seconds, I can get a complete map of what I have to do. So this is the small part of digitalization that we are doing. And another part, so once my finished goods is ready and it goes out to the market, I as a manufacturer need to track it, because it goes to multiple distribution centers, hubs, and then to the stores. And who's going to track it? And there are a lot of transition losses. And we as a product actually help them track the product. So what we say in a digitization in nutshell, a product right from a raw material stage to a finished product in the store, completely tracking and monitoring of that good. This is what we did in terms of digitization for our customers. And I would like to ask Mr. Tushar Trivedi to just explain this in a bit detail. So what he has around the great experiences, we are loving him as a mentor, and you would love his inputs on this all well on this.
Tushar sir, your take, please. Hello.
So I guess we need to look at this in three parts. Yeah, we need to look at this entire process in three parts. One was the laborers and the factories, where, especially in SME sector, everything is or was completely manual. It was the piece of paper, they write it down. Slightly sophisticated efforts were probably putting things in Excel. Now, from something where it would probably demonstrate everything which is on a click of a button. Everything can be measured, monitored, and responded at a given time. To that extent, the whole process, whether it's a shop floor supervisor, a simple labor, warehouse contractor, or the CEO or a CFO, everybody now has access to the desired data in the desired format, the way they would like to have a look at it, which makes it more effective at their fingertips. This is the way we had, and it's not automation of processes only, it's also some amount of digitization in terms of data. So there is some data which there was some data which was always lost, there's some data which was always not being kept in the format the way it was desired to be. Now it is data which is genuinely helping people to do their day-to-day work, and also helping them to make certain critical decisions. So it is 360-degree rampant change from where they were into before 2 years and where they are. All the industry that are using today, whatever, there are 27, 28 big customers that we have who are having factories, 4 factories, who are having 20, 25 large warehouses. And you can imagine they were running their operations, which was manual, which is now being automated. Obviously, it has taken us 2 years as well to convince them sort of automation will help you. Digitization will stop pilferages. Digitization will allow you to focus on change of season. You want to change the product. You want to focus more on, some amount of stoppage on day-to-day losses. All this was now possible because of availability of a platform which allows you to track and measure on a day-to-day basis.
Indeed, indeed. That's a wonderful depiction of how the SaaS-based platform, which is Inventify, how it helps industries. So, I had the privilege of getting some data from Wasim, uh, and it's amazing. Look at how the customer is benefiting. The raw material purchase has been reduced by 10% on the purchase side. On the sales order side, order fulfillment has improved up to 15% with timely dispatch and accuracy. Material utilization, the raw material wastage has been reduced up to 11% and inventory reduced up to 20%, and work in progress WIP reduced up to 5%. And on the production side, the production wastage has been reduced up to 4%, the improved finished goods rejection by 3%, and labor efficiency improved by a whopping 15%. So that really explains how investors are also lapping up SaaS companies, and how SaaS companies are attracting really good valuations across platforms, be it on the foreign stock markets or even from a venture capital perspective. So, Wasim, investors seem to be lapping SaaS in not only in India but also the APAC region. So, your comments on the same. What is the action you are seeing as of now?
So see, in the last 4 5 years, so there has been an tremendous advantage in SaaS companies. So, in talking point of view of investors, so there's a startup that we all know, the startup which completely burn based, burning a lot of cash and producing revenue. But if you talk about the SaaS companies right from the inceptions are the ones who are making money, right? Initially, maybe the cost of customer cost of acquisition is higher than the LTVs. So slowly, what happens? The lifetime value of each customer is far greater from the cost of acquisition, and that what I feel is actually driving the customers. And if you see, there are a lot of areas in India which has been deprived of technology, and there's a great opportunity. And we understand that there are multi-level of challenges, and wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. And investors are truly actually keeping a very keen eye on these kind of startups. And we have seen in a few startups really grow fast. So we just spoke about Dhruva, and we just spoke about the Shukani guys. They have grown really fast on this chain, and investors are actually looking for a better return in SaaS-based companies. And what we feel, we are really proud of it. The SaaS companies which are evolving from India are actually doing India plus. That means first serve India, serve the Indian customers, and then go global. So if you see our kind of a product, our kind of platform, if somebody also builds it, it's a great opportunity for somebody in the Southeast Asia market. Look at markets like Bangladesh. Look at a market like Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, Vietnam. Great market for SaaS. Plus US mid market. So that's where we see genuine value. So as a startup founder, that's where we see, yes, it's a really great opportunity for investors to actually pitch in here.
Great. That's it's all over the media. The way SaaS companies are getting funded, and the tremendous growth in these SaaS companies. Sir Tushar, if you could also throw some light on this investment in SaaS companies.
So I guess, of course, there are already unicorns, as you had really mentioned. Things are with with COVID happening. I think everybody wants how can we be more structured, how can we be more focused, and how can we, uh, sort of bring scale, make it more productive, more effective. At the same time, of course, cost is always a considerable, item under pressure, and cost is something that people want to control. With digital, with focus on data, with putting everything on cloud, with allowing individuals to have control of the processes and how can they define their own process, has made the life easier for people. Initially, the thought was that things are so complicated, and every time you want to write something and codify it, it makes life much difficult. But I guess we are able to, predict the output. We are able to produce the way it is desired, and in fact, as I said, sometimes do it yourself. Almost in that situation, of course, it's not done by the companies or the manufacturer or the stores or the warehouses, but the entire supply chain is seeing a huge change, which is probably a great thrust and a support to the SaaS organizations and players like us who believe that if we empower our customer more and more, and if we leverage data scientifically and enhance processes to such an extent which, it's automating the process, reduction of manpower, dependency on the manual processes. I think it's making life much easier, which is also value-added services that we intend to offer. Apart from that, people like various SaaS organizations are also now thinking of doing not only probably what we're doing in terms of say supply chain, but we want to do something different in CRM-based applications. We want to do something different for if I am focusing on industry, how can I address the entire supply chain and create a different service model? So, though we are a product organization, I'm eventually going to stay focused both on product and on services, because I believe that those peripheral activities, so-called services, are equally important if we were to keep customers happy and customers customer happy. So eventually it is all B to B2C, and if we want to cover the entire spectrum of activities that is happening in the industry, we need to be aligned, we need to be ensuring that we are delivering the expectations. And during pandemic, I think everybody's learned more on digitization. Government is also focused on digitization, improving skills. So I think it's challenge for us as well, just to keep up the pace, ensuring that we deliver the desired output, the expectations of the industry.
Great. Yeah, that explains. So, it's just 1 minute more left. So let us wrap this up. Thank you so much, Wasim and Sir Tushar. Thank you so much for coming. If you could just tell the viewers, how can they reach you out? Like maybe through your LinkedIn, email ID, website, starting with Wasim.
So you can reach out to me through in my LinkedIn as well as my email.
Okay. And Tushar, sir?
So you can reach out to us from, you type Tushar Trivedi. I think there are very few Tushar Trivedi who are in this professional BFSI world. They can connect me directly on LinkedIn, on my Gmail address, through Tushar Kansal, through a few of the places where I'm mentoring debates and forums that I have been addressing. So hopefully finding Tushar Trivedi should not be difficult. More than happy to be in touch and respond to the questions that I get.
Great. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Thank you for coming, Wasim, Tushar sir, both of you. Amazing company, Back2Stores. And, my best wishes are
Thank
always
you.
there, looking to see a funding round happening very soon. Thank you, both of you. Thanks so much. So this was today's Startup Ask. Thank you for
Yes.
watching. Thank you for
Thank you
coming. Uh,
very much. Have a
Thank
good
you so
evening.
much for having us.
Thanks.